Ellis, and we'll go to Barbie, and then Commissioner Garcia.
No, you need to be there.
Testing, testing.
Too late for that.
It's like not traveling in the same plane.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today for our press conference announcing a new initiative to expand capacity and support for domestic violence survivors. My name is Sion Rhodes. I am press secretary for Harris County Commissioner Precinct 4, Leslie Briones. We will hear from the following speakers this morning: Commissioner Briones, Emily Whitehurst, Commissioner Ellis, Barbie Brashear, Commissioner Garcia, Dr. Elizabeth Gregory, and closing remarks from Commissioner Leslie Briones. Please help me welcome Commissioner Leslie Briones.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today, we hopefully at Commissioner's Court today will continue to making progress for our survivors here in Harris County. I want to thank, first of all of the partners who are here today. I want to thank Commissioner Rodney Ellis, Harris County Commissioner Precinct 1, Commissioner Adrian Garcia, Harris County Commissioner Precinct 2, Emily Whitehurst, President and CEO of the Houston Area Women's Center, Barbie Brashear, Executive Director of the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, Dr. Elizabeth Gregory, Director for the U of H Institute for Women and Gender Studies, and all of the community partners, all of the nonprofit leaders, and all of the community members who are standing up and standing together to address this crisis that we have in Harris County. And together we will keep working and keep fighting so that we continue advancing justice and resources for survivors. I stand here today not as only as one of your commissioners, but more importantly as a woman, as somebody who has known people very close to me who have been victims and survivors, and as a teacher who so many of my students unfortunately lived in a home with violence, and trying to get them to focus at school. I mean, it was a victory that they were at school. Getting to focus was when they had so much trauma, and then seeing the effect of trauma, as I had many of my students who were engaging in victimization of others, and seeing this cycle of violence and wishing there was more I could do in that classroom. And now, fast forward years later, I'm happy to be standing here today. But the truth of the matter is that we have a problem in Harris County, and we are leading for the wrong reasons. Harris County leads the state of Texas in intimate partner violence homicides. We continue to see these numbers that are staggering. We have a 75% turnaway rate, 75% turnaway rate when victims are seeking shelter here in Harris County. It's so dangerous. Those points of when you're leaving your abuser, we know that those are some of the most dangerous moments. And then when you leave and there's a 75% chance you may be turned away, that is a problem, Harris County. And as a proud native Texan, when I look at New York City's numbers, New York City is twice the size of Harris County, but they have 10 times as many beds as Harris County. And together, as Texans, as Harris County residents, we need to all be doing more to address this issue. So here are some of the things Harris County Commissioners Court has been doing. Just a few quick examples. Today, I hope we will have a unanimous vote, that's my goal, for this new investment that will bring us approximately $4 million of investment, and this will help create greater collaboration and synergy. It will advance data sharing practices. It is anticipated to reduce the turn-away rate by approximately 10% and more. So this will be a key investment, and it complements other investments that we've been doing. We've invested nearly $20 million, and I want to say most of the $20 million have been federal ARPA funds, and I want to thank President Biden and the Biden-Harris administration for this investment in Harris County and in safety. The Domestic Violence Assistance Fund, partnering with approximately 20 organizations in Harris County, giving direct assistance to these nonprofits who then in turn give it to the survivors, helping them to rebuild their lives. We also started, and this is particularly near and dear to me as a former teacher, to the stories I shared earlier, the Early Childhood Resiliency Fund, approximately $6 million, where we're helping those youth who are growing up with this violence be able to escape the cycle of violence. And there are other investments that my colleagues will be talking about. We're making progress. We're making progress because of the collaboration between the county, the city, our nonprofit leaders, collaboration with the state. So one example is in Precinct 4. We are partnering with the City of Houston, specifically Councilmember Twyla Carter, brought this opportunity, partnering with the state agency. So in our community centers and parks, we now have information of resources, a QR code, and this is in both English and Spanish. Again, a step in the right direction, but it is not enough. It's going to take all of us, whether it's how we are teaching our children, our neighbors' children to respect themselves and each other, whether it is donations that our community can keep making, volunteering. It's going to take all of us to be that ear to a friend who's going through this, to connect folks to resources. Harris County, we need to come together because we have a serious problem that we need to solve and make progress on together. So I look forward to hearing from our partners. I know we are pulling for Spanish media, so I will do a very brief version of these in Spanish. Buenos días a todos. Soy Leslie Briones, su comisionada del Condado Harris, Precinto 4. Y estoy aquí, estoy muy agradecida de todos nuestros socios y aliados, el comisionado Rodney Ellis, el Precinto número 1 del Condado Harris, al comisionado Adrián García del Precinto 2, del Condado Harris, Emily Whitehurst, presidenta de Houston Area Women's Center, a Barbie Brashear, directora ejecutiva del Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, a la doctora Elizabeth Gregory de la Universidad de Houston, la directora del Institute for Women and Gender Studies, y a la administración Biden-Harris por estos recursos que estamos invirtiendo a combatir esta violencia en el Condado Harris. Todas las personas merecen estar a salvo y libres de violencia, pero la verdad es que aún nos queda mucho por hacer para convertir esto en una realidad. Por ejemplo, el Condado Harris está a la cabeza en Texas en muertes por violencia de pareja. Esto es inaceptable. Por eso proponemos hoy en el Corte de Comisionados una inversión de $4 millones de fondos federales ARPA para HAWC, the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council y otros socios comunitarios. Esta inversión repartida en un plazo de 4 años ayudará a las víctimas y a los proveedores de servicios de esta manera. Aumentará la capacidad en personal y recursos, mejorará el alcance comunitario, se mantendrá al día con las mejores prácticas y hará alianzas externas, públicas y privadas. Desde 2022 hemos invertido casi $20 millones entre fondos ARPA y generales del condado en iniciativas de este tipo. La más reciente fue el programa piloto Estoy bien, estás bien. Estamos trabajando en eso con la ciudad de Houston y también el estado de Texas. Sepan que acá estamos para apoyar a las víctimas de violencia. Y para más información, por favor, revise la web y los sitios del internet de Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. Este es un tema muy personal porque todos tenemos una amiga, un vecino, alguien que conocemos que está sufriendo con este tipo de violencia. Y todos merecemos estar a salvo y libres de violencia. Tenemos un problema grave aquí en el condado Jerez, pero juntos vamos mejorando y juntos vamos a resolver este gran problema en nuestra comunidad, porque todos merecemos ser salvos. Así que muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for being here. Next, join me in welcoming Emily Whitehurst, who leads the Houston Area Women's Center.
It is my distinct privilege to represent the Houston Area Women's Center and to offer our sincere thanks to the commissioners, especially to Commissioner Briones. I think you originated this idea out of your office, for this extraordinarily prescient and proactive investment in the domestic violence coordination in order to improve access to life-saving services and reduce our alarming femicide rates. We are especially glad to be raising this during the time of the holidays. This is a very dangerous time. Just over Thanksgiving, we had 3 homicides. 1 out of every 4 homicides in the city of Houston are related to domestic violence. And I would like to say I think our sister agencies, along with Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, we do a good job of coordinating, but we're doing it on the side. We're doing it in addition to providing these services. And what this investment will allow us to do is to take the time and have the resources at our disposal to really figure out how to reduce these homicide rates, improve coordination, and achieve a much better viable scenario for survivors who are fleeing violence in our region. The Houston Area Women's Center receives 120 calls a day, and we want to make sure that survivors only have to call once and that they're not turned away. That's our goal. They only have to call once, they get immediate access to services, and if they have the courage to leave, they are definitely not turned away. So I am certain that we will be able to come back to you after 1 year and have a much better plan to advance here in the region. I hope this is the first of many investments like this in the Houston Area Women's Center, our sister agencies, and the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. I do want to say just a little bit about how special this particular investment is. It's a wonderful example of a collaboration between an academic institution, a coordinating council, and direct service providers who are also providing thought leadership. Together, we did a look at ourselves and a look at our data. We were a little distraught that the data is so hard to collect and it's not as easy to decipher. That's one of the things we want to really improve. But out of that effort, we got a report from Dr. Gregory, who is just an extraordinary leader in this community and elevating the conversation. And it's out of that report that it began to drive the conversation at the county about how can we make a strategic investment to really turn the tide in this community, and how can we do it in with applied research and in collaboration with the people who are doing this work every day on the front lines. So it's an extraordinary opportunity. We are as HAWC proud to receive these funds. We will be doing this in collaboration, and we will not let you down. Thank you so much. And it's my honor now to introduce Commissioner Ellis, the inimitable Commissioner Ellis.
Thank you, Emily. Emily is my neighbor, and I can't wait until she moves into her new facility. The address will be public, and I know we're working on an agreement so that they can utilize the facilities, and she and I both will learn how to swim.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But they just do great work. Commissioner Briones, I want to thank you for your leadership and your team. Commissioner Garcia, I want to thank you for your leadership and your team as well. Now, after I speak, and then my colleague, Commissioner Garcia, speaks, I'm going to tip out because he was the first one here. And he asked me how long was I going to hold us in session today. Judge Hidalgo's on her honeymoon, so I need to run up and look at my notes afterwards. But I want to thank this incredible team for being here today. It's important work. As I mentioned, I'm very familiar with the work of the Houston Area Women's Center and the partners, but particularly the Houston Area Women's Center because I'm watching the progress on their building. And your dedication to saving lives, working with your colleagues who are with us today is evidence of your commitment to making a difference on this big problem that we have. Domestic violence is an issue that affects everyone from every neighborhood and every background. We also know that disproportionately it impacts women of color and marginalized groups. I see them going in and out of that facility on a regular basis. Here in Texas, as Commissioner Briones said, the domestic violence crisis is intensified, in my judgment, to some extent by state policies that have made it easier for people to have access to guns and harder to have access to reproductive health care. Domestic violence kills more women each year than any other cause. Nearly 20% of women experience violence during pregnancy. I want to say that again. Nearly 20% of women experience violence during pregnancy. And the risk increases for young women who have unintended pregnancies at an increased rate, according to the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. And access to guns makes domestic violence more deadly. Firearms were used in 73% of the domestic violence deaths identified by the Houston Police Department in 2023. In Harris County, as my colleague said, we're doing a full court press against domestic violence, utilizing robust and holistic approaches aimed at prevention and supporting survivors. We've invested the $4.5 million in flexible assistance through the Domestic Violence Fund. We are awarding from the county about $500,000 from my infrastructure fund that each precinct had a little influence on. We're trying to help them secure housing, food, transportation, and medical care. Our reproductive health care access fund is providing funding for contraception and reproductive health care to organizations across the county. And we're also working to reduce gun violence, which is mostly linked to those homicides where domestic violence is involved. Again, I want to thank the Biden-Harris administration. I'm glad that both at the city and the county, we took some of those federal funds that we could access and put it to good use. The city put up the bulk of the money to build that new facility that they had to raise the rest to complete it in a timely basis. And at the county level, we've done an outstanding job of looking at equity, needs, gaps out there in our county on how to use that federal money. The real challenge for us going forward will be if we don't have access to federal funds from the federal government again or the state government, how will we continue to fund programs like this? So make the case so you can come back to the voters at Harris County and say these are worthwhile investments that ought to continue. Thank you. With that, I want to turn it over to Barbie Brashear at HCD VCC. Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to echo the thanks that you've heard. We have 3 fantastic leaders behind us who are making incredible decisions about where we invest our dollars. As a community member, a taxpayer, a registered voter, I'm very proud of the commitment that these leaders are making. I'm going to be really brief in my responses because you're hearing what you need to hear about the funds. But this morning, as I was reflecting on this day, I was reminded of my 5th grade teacher. I'm going to evoke her name. Her name was Miss Fox. And she would say to us all the time, when you know better, you do better. When you know better, you do better. To me, that just really defines this investment. It allows us to deeply listen to the needs of our community so that we know better. And then we can do better. And then we go to these leaders and say, this is what we know, and we know this from our community. Help us do better. So, thank you. I'm excited for what these next 4 years bring, and I have full faith and trust in our services, our agencies, our systems, that we can collaboratively work together to get this done. Thank you. And I have the honor of introducing Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you and good morning. And again, I want to thank Commissioner Leslie Briones and Commissioner Ellis for their respective leadership and commitment to this very, very important issue. But I also want to thank these respective leaders, thought leaders, frontline leaders, who are making sure that they're holding us accountable to ensuring that we're leveraging all aspects of government and the resources that we have available to help important people in our communities, survivors. No one should live confronting this type of chaotic experience and environment, especially children. And so my heart and my respect goes out to each and every one of you for taking on this very, very incredible task. As a longtime law enforcement official, I have seen the horrors of domestic violence all too up close and personal. And it is something that I remain completely committed to addressing and providing resources to the extent possible to help address this. But that's why I believe that bringing the perpetrators of domestic violence to justice should always remain front and center. As a cop, I've got to say that. The people who will bring harm to women and children have got to find themselves in handcuffs and in incarceration. However, it is not just enforcing the law that can help us move forward. Survivors of domestic violence require additional care and support, specialized care that goes beyond centering the survivors to also include their children and requires attention to other issues like housing and mental health care. Sadly, as it's been said, there just isn't enough focus on this epidemic, which hits Harris County particularly hard. I track the crime rates for Houston and Harris County. And folks, let me tell you, our law enforcement officials are working hard to impact all crime indexes. However, the domestic violence crime rate continues to outpace violent crime. And that is just unconscionable. So the truth is that there is no silver bullet that can solve this problem overnight, but we also know we are not powerless against this challenge. Just ask the dozen of community organizations and social workers working every day to support and protect survivors. And that's why today's announcement is so important. These funds are going to supercharge so much of the work already started by the folks across Harris County and the people behind me in particular. This initiative will advance justice by scaling up early intervention and comprehensive survivor services, interrupting the vicious cycle of violence before it results in more harm. This initiative will also fund domestic violence high-risk teams, experts who can quickly identify cases with a heightened risk of escalating to severe injury so that they can jump into action fast, providing shelter, legal help, and mental health support. Look, domestic violence affects individuals and families across every demographic and economic social index and leaves a profound impact on survivors in our communities. It is a crisis that demands our attention, compassion, and the solution requires our absolute financial support. So let me close by thanking so many of you who work quietly, without fanfare or credit, to save the lives of women and children impacted by this challenge. Here in Harris County, we see you, we appreciate what you do, and I want you to know that we will not stop working until we leverage every resource available to shrink this challenge substantially and with all hope long-term and permanently. And so with that, again, let me just thank these incredible organizations and thought leaders for their respective work. They see the fragments of families so often that it's just, they have my utmost respect and gratitude for their commitment to this work and for saving and touching and helping the lives that they come across. And I also want to thank and recognize next Dr. Elizabeth Gregory with the University of Houston on Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, who helped to bring the data together that has crafted the approach that we're anxious to fund. So Dr. Gregory, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. I'm thrilled to be here to celebrate with everybody today's news that Harris County is investing for the first time in a support infrastructure for people fleeing intimate partner violence in our region, most of them women, many with children. As we all know from the evening news, this violence is too common. Over the past 50 years, the network of domestic violence service providers in the Houston region have built and delivered a safety net for Houstonians and their children fleeing violence, but they're hugely underfunded relative to need. This is a sign from our county that we're ready to invest in our people because we know that these issues are systemic. They're not just personal problems that those particular people are facing. These are questions of how our community supports one another. And this is such a sign. It indicates to people that this is not acceptable here and that we as a community are investing in making things better. And that's such an important step in and of itself along with the money. This will do enormous good in more efficiently and effectively delivering aid to survivors and their families and allowing providers to utilize their time more efficiently to prevent burnout and enabling better data collection and merging across shelters for a fuller picture of IPV in our region, because you have to know the scope of the problem in order to address it, and in expanding communication about domestic violence's causes, how to recognize it, and how to address it. Our Institute for Research on Women, Gender, and Sexuality was founded in 2019 with an eye toward documenting data around these issues in order to inform policy. In 2023, we published a report recommending expanded investment in DV infrastructure, and we are so grateful that the county has stepped in to do just that. The report was based in in-depth individual interviews and group discussions with the amazing leadership of local shelters. They shared their enormous wisdom, insights, and experience. With collaborations with the shelters and with HPD and the Sheriff's Office around local data collection and analysis, more than 250 interviews with women in shelters, and comparative research through interviews with leadership in other regions. One of our findings was that IPV homicides had doubled in our region between 2019 and 2022, and since then, homicide rates have generally fallen, but IPV rates have stayed steady or risen. So clearly this is a deep and growing need for expanded services in Harris County. Women's wages, low wages, lack of affordable childcare, and lack of affordable housing all contribute to the systemic issues, making it difficult for many to leave abuse. People dependent on others, especially those with children, become more vulnerable to violence at the hands of those they depend on because they can't afford to leave without risking homelessness. When women do leave, it's essential that there be a welcoming, safe place of refuge where they can access resources to build new ways forward. Today's funding will now make it possible for shelters to serve more women and children here and to begin the conversations that will allow us as a region to change the landscape of opportunity here. Tax dollars expended on the welfare of women and children will be repaid in many forms with interest. Just think, when women are able to work, their status in their family changes, their family is better off because their funds feed the family as well, and they pay taxes. So think of it as an investment with a long-term benefit that we will all see the benefit from. So many big thanks to the commissioners and their staffs, particularly Commissioner Briones' staffs, and thank you all. And Talia, thank you so much. And thank you all for this great investment in our people. Thank you.
So again, I'd like to thank Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Ellis, all of these leaders that stand with us, we're in this together, and all of your team members and all of the organizations across Harris County, the nonprofits, the places of worship, the community groups that are supporting survivors. And, you know, this is a deeply personal issue to me. And as a mom of 3 little girls, the statistics show that very likely one of them will be a victim of intimate partner violence. And for my daughters and for all of our children, that is not okay. So here in Harris County, we are investing to support survivors. We are investing to advance public safety. We are investing to advance justice for our survivors. And we're looking at this in a very holistic, systemic way. And we talked about some of the drivers, whether it's healthcare, physical and mental health, housing, childcare, economic opportunity, and beyond. So know that we will be here, and we thank the taxpayers of Harris County for making this investment possible, because we're in this together. And I want to end by thanking all of our teams across the precincts who worked very hard. And in particular, I want to thank my Harris County Precinct 4 team, especially led by Talia Morris, for all of your work. And so on behalf of all of the children in Harris County, on behalf of all of the men and women who are victims and who are surviving, let us all help the survival together, because money alone will not solve this crisis. It's education. It's working on all of these fundamental issues that we've been discussing so that everybody has a fair shot, that everybody has access to the justice and opportunity that they deserve. And again, we're in this together, so please, if you are experiencing the violence, know that there are free resources here for you in Harris County. And if you're somebody who could help volunteer, donate, you're cleaning out your closet and have clothes, please, there's so many ways we can all activate to do more to address this deep crisis in Harris County. And I look forward to the day in partnership, in unity, when we can stand here and say that Harris County is leading for the right reasons on domestic violence. And until then, it's going to take all of us working together. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and onward in this advancement of justice.
At this time, we'll take any questions from the press. All right, thank you, everyone. Going to take pictures? Yes.